this amazing situation where the Mediterranean feeds off into the Atlantic Ocean, these two big seas coming together, but they have two different salinities, different amounts of salt, two different temperatures, two different densities, two different life forms, not the same. And when they come together, that one stays inside of the other, but they don't mix. And when he got ready to talk about that, he had a Muslim on the boat with him, and he said, well, we already know that. That's in the Quran 1400 years ago. Yeah, we won't make that then into anything. Leave it. Then, when this book talks about when the river of sweet water pours into the salinity of the salt water, and they don't mix. And you go to the Mississippi River, and you find the same thing that it says right here. And it talks to us in here about the stars. It talks about the moon and the sun and the earth and everything that Allah created, and describes them in detail, and tells us that the earth is doing what? Kawi. Turning. Turning. The same thing like when you'd make a turban, kawi. Turning. The earth is turning. And nobody believed that back then, because you don't feel the earth turning, do you? So we assumed that the earth was the center of the universe, and that the sun was going around us, is what we thought. But it mentions that even the sun is in orbit. The earth is in orbit. How could the sun be in an orbit? But guess what we found out? It's in an orbit. The sun has an orbit. It's not being still. And the earth is going around the sun the same way the moon is going around the earth. All of it's moving, swimming. And Allah uses this, swimming, swimming. Who is telling us this? The Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the worlds. I don't see your point, son. I didn't think you would. I didn't expect you to. I'm not doing this just for you. I'm reminding myself and anybody else that can hear me, because I'm not trying to guide you. If your Lord wants you guided, He'll guide you. But He says in this book, do not the unbelievers see it? Take a look at this book. If it were from other than Allah, you would find within it what? Many contradictions. Find one. We're waiting. 1400 years we're waiting, and so far all they come up with is some goofy websites that they put up today and take down tomorrow. The only reason they stay there is because stupid Muslims keep passing around the wrong websites. Our website, on the other hand, is islamtomorrow.com, which you're free to pass around. Alhamdulillah, I'm over it. You got to watch out for Texans, by the way, you know. You're either with us or... Never mind, that's another speech. So back to the classroom. And here is this boy, this young boy, talking to professors like paralyzed. He can't think anymore. He never heard anybody talk like that. And he keeps pointing to this book and talking about the Quran. The Quran says, if you're in doubt about it, bring a book like it. 1400 years. Nobody did that. Now I'm going to digress just for a minute and let you think. I have visited on many campuses throughout the United States and Canada, and in Mexico, and in Pakistan, Egypt, and in Turkey. I've been around the world, alhamdulillah. Coming here is a great experience for me here in India, and I thank Allah for that. And I'm telling you that everywhere I went, I asked people the same questions. Everywhere I asked about the subject of revelation, I got the same answers. The Quran is still existing in the original language of Quran. The language of recitation in which it came, Lagu Arabiya, is there. It exists. Today people still speak it. They still understand it. Bait, house. Batta, duck. Yom, day. All of these things are known. It's right there. It's easy. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to appreciate the Quran, but if you are a rocket scientist, then the knowledge that you have for going into outer space was there 1400 years ago. And while we're on the subject of science and scientists, it was Muslim scientists 1,000 years ago that offered us the testable way to find out what is true. Who are the ones who came up with the idea of testable evidence in the first place? If it wasn't Imam Bukhari, rahmatullahi alayhi, who was it? Test the evidence before you put it down. Did he do that? Yes or no? Test the evidence. The evidence used in Scotland Yard uses the same premise that was set out by our great imams 12 to 1300 years ago. The same way they rate you on the internet to determine your credit worthiness on eBay is based on the same premise that these scholars use to test the rawaya, the chain of narrators, to show us which hadith are real and which ones aren't. The ijaza of Quran is an evidence in itself of what? The science of testable evidence. And you never had a university whatsoever like you have today until you copied it from the universities in Spain when it was under Muslim rule. And you never even knew what a university like this was until you visited Iraq and saw them there. And when you visited Cairo and saw what's still today the oldest university still operating on earth, Al-Azhar. Alhamdulillah, Allah let me go there and be there and sit with the ulama. And when I'm going to use the word ulama, say ulama, ulama. A person who has knowledge is a alim, alim, right? And what do you call somebody who graduates from a university if you don't call him a what? Somebody graduates, he's a alumni. From what word? Oops. Oops. Now you know. And they still wear the long black robe. And it's not Latin, it's Arabic. Alumni, from alim. And the long black robe. Where did it come from? And go to Turkey right now and watch the imams. When they're going to lead salat, they go in their little cubby hole and get their little cap and put it on. Then he gets his black robe and he's wearing the same one they're wearing today in universities. Because they're copying the way of the scholars of Islam 1,000 years ago. If you want to talk to me about testable evidence, we'll talk all day long, as far back as you want to go. Sir, do you know anything about algebra? Of course I do. Good. What does it mean? Well, it's the science of using a number that's represented, it's an unknown number represented by a letter. Who thought it up? I don't know. Algebra. It's Arabic. It came from the Muslim scientists. What about the numbering system? Isn't it called the Arabic numbering system? And who thought it up? Who came up with a zero? The Muslim scientists right here in India. Only they called it Arabic because they didn't want to call them Muslim. So they said anybody became Arabicized. They didn't want to say they became Muslim. And how do you account for the fact that every single one of these evidences here is irrefutable and there's no mistakes in this book? How? Go ahead. Show me. I brought something that's testable evidence. It even tells me that people like you who don't want to believe, whether I warn you or warn you not, la yu'minun, you're not going to believe because Allah has placed a seal on your heart. He placed a seal on your hearing. He placed a seal over your seeing, another seal. Who did that? Your Creator, because you don't want to know Him. And until you want to know Him, you're not going to know Him because He doesn't need you. Professor doesn't have anything else to say. He's already thinking, I'm going to get this kid out of my class. That's it. Finish. Just sit down. Oh, sir, one more thing. I just have one last question, and I'm going to go sit down. Good. What's your question? Sir, you told us to you that testable evidence is something that you can see. That's right. Something you can hear. That's right. Something that you can smell or taste. Something you could feel. Something you could imagine. That's right. So all of these things, sir, are testable evidence to you. That's right. Sir, can I ask you one final question? Just one. Go ahead. Sir, has anybody ever seen your brain? Has anybody ever heard your brain? Has anybody ever smelled your brain, tasted your brain, felt your brain, or imagined your brain? No? Well then, sir, according to your testable evidence, you don't have a brain.